And Mike, as you've seen, we have just gone live with the Pat and Mike show, first one of 2021. So how goes it?
Perfect. I'm just switching screens right now, which is pretty common for this year, right? Getting the technology down. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. And, thank you for joining us. We wanted to take a minute and kind of just like recap what our world has looked like for the last 9 or so months. It's been crazy, just like for everyone else. It's also been amazing to serve as many families as we have. And, some of the cool things that have happened is like I'm working from home now and I get to see my kids every day. It wouldn't be bad if they went back to school, but in any event, here we are and here's what we're doing. So yeah, we thought it'd be good to just kind of touch on how our process has evolved over the last year, 9 months. And then just kind of, I'd love to share a couple stories of how we've been able to help families.
And it has been, it's been this interesting balance of like positive and negative. I mean, the negatives are they're overwhelming. I mean, just in terms of the hardships that our families have faced, the isolation, just everything has changed over this last year. I mean, I don't think there's any denying of that, but it's also worked out very, very well in terms of us being able to adapt to that, being able to reach out to families, being able to try and serve folks, I think beyond what we thought we were capable of doing, at the beginning of this year. Having not met physically with people for quite some time, but still being able to provide them the estate planning, the Medicaid advice, just all of the things that we do, I have been kind of blown away by what we're capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's a great example. 1 year ago, I used to sit in the same office as you every day. And now you're in Kalamazoo and I'm over in Southeast Michigan. And here we are. We've been doing this show kind of going on 9 months now. And it's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've passed each other in the halls from time to time, but I mean, we haven't worked in the same office in 10 months now, 9-10 months now, and yet it all just seems to be working out the way that you would hope that it would be. Yeah. So that's, beyond, I think, our expectations.
Yeah, that week back in March where the governor had kind of put down the lockdown for everyone, we had a lot of internal conversations about, how we practice and how can we still serve families while utilizing technology to do so. And, don't get me wrong, just like everyone else's business, there were moments of this ship is going down, but, it was great to come together as a team and we've implemented some strategies and ways to serve families now, not only in Southeastern Michigan and Kalamazoo, but all over the entire state. I mean, we have families now in the UP and Northern Michigan, and it's been great to extend the expertise that a lot of families in our areas have access to maybe some more rural communities that traditionally have just their, one-stop shop attorney that does everyone's real estate transaction, divorce, and estate plan. And so just that specialty that we've been able to deliver to the entire state has been great.
What Mike's talking about there, and like, I don't mean to, oversell or toot our own horn or something like that. But I kind of want to a little bit. There are all these communities that are a little bit smaller. They're a little bit, you don't have a heart surgeon, you don't have a thoracic surgeon, you don't have a spinal surgeon. You don't have that expertise in that medical knowledge there. So if something were to happen, you go to Ann Arbor, you'd go to Grand Rapids, you go to the place where there's the expert. And what happens a lot with the law, as I've found, I know Mike's found this as well, is people are like, oh, this seems pretty close to what I want to do, so I'm going to do that. And it's like, it's close, but it's not the same thing. And that's what it's been really amazing to be able to offer these families in these more isolated, in these more rural communities, is say, hey, now you can finally have, that level of service, that level of expertise that you deserve to have. But you're not going to drive, quite candidly, most people aren't going to drive an hour or two to meet with an attorney who will do that if they feel, oh, this person here does sort of that, and so I'm just going to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to be able to serve these communities in the ways that they deserve to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's been an interesting year with just, everyone has had more time on their hands. So maybe some of the things like estate planning is kind of something that people have been thinking about. But also, due to just the media and what's happening with COVID, we've worked with so many families that have lost a loved one. There's just a heightened awareness of how impactful estate planning can have on a family, and just, the ability to smoothly transition through situations from incapacity to death.
And what Mike's talking about there is one of those. I know that for myself, I know for Mike, and for the rest of the attorneys in this firm, this is a very delicate issue. Like, it's not easy to talk about. Like, you will have people who lose a loved one. You have somebody who loses a partner. One of the examples that I was thinking about recently is, and Mike, I told you about this one. Marianne from Gilligan's Island, the actress, just passed. And it's, hey, that is a relevant thing. It's important that people know, hey, this stuff can happen, and it won't be expected, and it will come, it'll blindside you sometimes. And you don't want to be foolish. You don't want to be morbid about it. But at the same time, you want to be accurate and upfront about that. And it can be hard to strike that balance, where you're trying to say, hey, look, we're not trying to say like this happens every day, but this happens every day. That's the reality of our lives, are that people will pass away, people will be deemed not competent on a day in, day out basis. And you say, well, that'll never happen to me. That'll never happen to my wife, to my husband, to my mom, to my dad. It will. One of these days, that's kind of how things are going to play out. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, and it's not something that's fun to talk about, but it's real. And putting your head in the sand, you can't just, ostrich it away, pretend like it's not going to happen. So we try to keep things as upbeat and positive and all that as possible. But, it's also, this is the reality of what we're dealing with,
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Pat. Yeah. And it's, some of the things that I've really enjoyed over the year, which I think has just been able to allow us to serve families better, is, now that Zoom is like a thing that everyone is very comfortable with, we've had so many meetings with entire families. I was just on last evening with, it was a trust administration issue, and I was on with the entire family, walking them through like, what are the next steps, what needs to happen. And that has been very cool, because in the past, I mean, as you can imagine, coordinating 6 people's calendars, it makes things very difficult, and it might be a month before we can meet. And there were plenty of times over the last 9 months where we were able to get the entire family on. Everyone was up to speed with what's going on and what we're trying to accomplish. And it was just, it's just a better way to serve families. And yeah, go ahead.
No. What you're describing is kind of one of those ongoing struggles that we always had back in the day. It was, oh, we can get 1 or 2 people here, but we need 6 or 8. We need everyone who's relevant to be in the room. And I tell you what, the 2 people who showed up in person versus the 6 people who are on the phone, the 2 people who were there in person, they'd just be like, yes. And then the people on the phone would be like, hey, what's going on? We're not there. We're going to yell, and we're going to talk, and we're going to whatever. It's like, okay, we're trying to bring everyone into this.
I love how you referenced 9 months ago as like back in the day.
Oh, it was 1,000 years ago.
Back in the day, pre-COVID, when things were normal.
Pre-COVID is a different lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that has worked really well, and it's just another way to help serve families truly, is we've implemented the ability and to work with people's professionals, meaning if they have a financial advisor, if they have a CPA, like we will get with them as we're going through the planning process to make sure that we're all on the same page. Because in the past, again, just calendaring and getting these things on people's schedule is just very difficult. And it has been that much easier. Just pop in on a Zoom meeting, 20 minutes of someone's time to just bring everyone up to speed, make sure we're all on the same page. I think that's awesome.
And on that point, I mean, that is not a thing that is normally done. I mean, you say it like it's, oh, and then obviously we'll do X, Y, and Z. That's not how most law firms work. That's not how this process normally goes. Normally it's, oh, we're the law, they're the finance, and ne'er the twain shall meet, But I do think that that's an important point to make, which is, hey, you have a financial advisor, you have a CPA, you have a person who's been working with you on these things. Let us work with them to make sure that, everything transitions smoothly, because otherwise it might not. And, that could be bad.
Yeah.
Without saying too specifically how it could be, that could be bad. You want to make sure that your legal and financial paperwork are on the same, platform.
Yeah. Well, now that we've spent 20 minutes talking about how awesome we are, because we are, but the last thing I wanted to touch on is something that's been unique to this year, and it's the families we've served. There's been so many times where, unfortunately, we've had to transition into trust administration because the person has unexpectedly passed away in a very short period of time, which has been different for this year. I can think of probably 5 to 7 families that we worked with just recently where a plan was put in place, and within 3 months, unfortunately, someone had passed away. So timing was really of the essence on these, and unknown to them. They were not struggling from health conditions or anything like that to alert anyone that like it's going to happen soon.
Yeah. And that's it. Again, it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where you don't want to seem ghoulish, you don't want to seem morbid about it, but it's also the reality of the situation, the reality of the world that we're in right now. We have an awful lot of people who will put planning in place, and over the last year, we did not expect to have to use it. You're like, oh, this will be 5 or 8 or 20 years down the road, and it was 6 months down the road. But having that in place, making sure that you have things squared away now, makes things as easy as they could be. Things are not going to be easy for the kids. People don't expect to lose their parents in their 70s, things like that. But it can be better and it can be worse. And having that squared away, it just smooths over a lot of those issues, a lot of those difficulties.
Yeah.
And that's the idea.
Pat, I want to switch gears for just a minute, because I know we talk a lot here about estate planning, but we do a lot of Medicaid planning as well at the firm. And this has been a challenging year for that as well, just because people can't see their loved ones if they're in a nursing home. Getting people placed has been a little bit more challenging, but there's been some hurdles that we've been able to overcome and serve a lot of families. And I'm very grateful that we've been able to help as many as we have.
Amen to that. And it has not been easy. There are things that we will still tell people, we'll still talk to people and say, hey, this is how it ordinarily works to get placed, to become a resident, to do these things. But you have to know that's not necessarily how it's going to work today. I just got off the phone with literally, about 40 minutes ago, I got off the phone with a nursing community, with a continuum of care community, and we're not likely going to be able to place the family there that we had hoped that we would, the way that we thought that we would. I think that we can figure something out, but it is a unique and difficult time that we're in. And, having people understand that, but also having them understand, like, hey, if you think that this might be an issue, we want to jump on this now. Because what normally might have been a 1 or 2 or 3 month period, where we're trying to work through this, we're talking 4 to 6 months at this time. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way that it is. And once we have, people are hearing, oh, we got the vaccine, and so this is going to be good. Yes, that's a really good thing. Don't get me wrong on that. But there is a backlog. Like we have quarantine periods. We have the most vulnerable population in the country when we're talking about the nursing home patients. So just to say, like, if you think that that is something that you or a loved one might need, we want to be moving on that as quickly as possible, because we can have you qualified, we can do everything legally and financially, but in terms of actually finding a bed somewhere, in terms of actually saying, hey, this is where you're going to be, that's still a very real challenge. So if that is something that you or a loved one feels in need of, we need to start working on that right now. Ideally we'd be working on it a month ago.
Right. And I think that, Pat, thanks for that. I really think the relationships that we have also with the communities has been extremely helpful, because, back in the day,
Yeah.
you used to be able to, like, be provided a list of places and go tour them and meet with people. And unfortunately, that's just not a reality anymore. They're not allowing people in just because of how vulnerable that population is. And virtual tours are a thing now, and, Zoom this and Zoom that. But, just having those relationships have really, really helped a lot of the families that we've worked with.
Amen to that. Like, I mean, it really is like there's no silver bullet. There's no like perfect solution to this. But when you're able to talk to someone and say, look, this is where they are, this is what they need, this is their situation, you do not have to worry about this person. We will handle all of it. That's just a world of difference.
Yeah.
From their perspective.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, Pat, I think we need a wrap here, unfortunately. But
Yep.
2020 was an amazing year in some respects, and in others it was a challenge. But here we are, 2021, looking positive. Hopefully this year will be different. But we're here to help in any way that we can.
Amen. All right, brother.
Okay, everyone have a great day, and we'll see you guys for more content from the Pat and Mike Show coming up next week.
There we go.
All right, take care, everyone.